Welcome back, everyone, to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. And yeah, this is the first in a long time. Who is this person? I do not know him. Yeah, I'm casting myself. Sakis Mondeo, my friend slash viewer. Hello. He's going to be my ally. And our opponents are going to be Ragulin, and they call me Mr. Fahrenheit, playing both as the OKW. Of course, this is on the new patch, and it is the primary purpose why I'm casting this, because I'm playing with the recon support tactics, which got changed quite a bit. And overall, the game was pretty good. I don't even remember how long it was, but it wasn't all that long, so might as well to have something out really quickly. Record this. I've also gotten 2 replays, I believe, on the new patch, so I will be getting to those after this one. So you should be expecting, I believe, I don't remember exactly who sent them. One of them was Semenescu, and another one was Victor. So both of you should be expecting the replays to come in the next few days, casted and ready. So let's quickly check this out. Now, they are going with the Führersturm doctrine already, and Sakis is going with the Mechanized Company, so the other, new doctrine, or rather, newly revamped doctrine. I don't really like the Mechanized Company on this map, however. The map is, of course, Trois-Ponts, so that's the reason why I myself went for recon support. I will get surprised instantly by that Sturm Pioneer, unfortunately, so that's kind of a problem. I'm going to try to run away towards the building. And I get inside, and Mongrand's blazing, and I can get some damage off on those Sturm Pioneers. I managed to recall my rear echelon troops that were capturing the VP and force away these Sturm Pioneers, switching out the Riflemen for a full health squad that was just freshly deployed from the base. And of course, the Sturm Pioneers have to retreat. However, this has allowed the enemy to set up a defensive position with the Volksgrenadiers at the munitions point. In the meantime, on the right side, we have, of course, the glorious military truck just kind of coming in and derping all over these Sturm piles. Of course, it doesn't have that 50 caliber machine gun automatically anymore. You have to upgrade it, and right now, as you can see, he did manage to take down that Sturm Pioneer squad, even executing the guy. The Rifleman managing to get out just at the last possible time, and the second Sturm Pile squad, of course, the Sturm Pioneer buff, allowing Ragulin to deploy more Sturm Piles. Unfortunately, that second squad is going to be able to do nothing against the military truck and is going to be forced away. My rear echelon troops, I have a second one. I have a second rear echelon troop that I got later just for the utility. Surprisingly effective against these Volksgrenadiers, managing to pretty much destroy one squad and force away the other one. The other one gets in the building over here. I could have probably just stayed here and fired there without any retaliation coming through. I saw that the guys weren't shooting back, but hey, I didn't really notice it at the time. And right now there's WC-51, a military truck, of course, still doing its thing. However, it seems like these rear echelon troops will be forced to retreat. At this moment, it seems like Ragulin doesn't really have all that many units. Mr. Fahrenheit does have a few troops at the front, but most of his stuff is still back at base trying to replenish. He does have a second supply half track. Of course, he does not really need the early supply half track as much as he did, in the previous patch, because you can get the combat package, you can get those flamethrowers without the battle headquarters being set up, but he will go ahead and do that. Of course, he wants the extra healing, etc., etc. In the meantime, on the right side, of course, we see that Sakis is repairing his military truck. And now he will have access, of course, to the raid tactic, which allows him to cap a lot faster. He will also have access soon enough to the M21 motor half-track. We'll see if he wants to do that. He went for 3 rifleman squads, and of course, that's going to be pretty good infantry force. I myself have gone for a Pathfinder squad. I will come to regret this soon enough. I'm trying to use them, but of course, here comes the incendiary grenade. Get a bit of a advanced warning that they're coming in, and so I managed to avoid the incendiary grenade, but I avoided into the negative cover, so of course, Pathfinder's taking quite a bit of damage, and right now, nice flank gonna come through from Mr. Fahrenheit with his Sturm Pioneers. Of course, getting a nice burst of flame on the Pathfinders, getting 2 kills, and now the Pathfinders are in bad shape. They're gonna try to get out and get some extra fire down on those guys, but they're still taking more fire, and they're gonna have to retreat. Thankfully, I decided to build a fighting position up here to defend the fuel point. The fuel point got captured anyway, but at this point, the fighting position is gonna help very greatly in dealing with that. I have a flanking coming through from these rear echelon troops. However, this will not be enough because of these 2 folks. They'll have to retreat, and in fact, I may even lose the... No, okay, I don't lose the rear echelon troop, but that sacrifice of the rear echelon allows my riflemen to get into the building. and get a nice position to fire off on these Volksgrenadiers. Of course, the Volksgrenadiers instantly decide to throw a grenade. I noticed that, thankfully, and get out. At the same time, I have a nice push coming through from these two guys, and they're going to be able to push back those German troops. On the right side, my ally is doing very, very well, taking the VP and, of course, the cemetery with the fuel point. That is very, very great, very crucial on Trois Ponts. His opponent, Ragulin, for some reason, has decided to bring up the supply half-track right up to the cemetery wall, which does not really provide him with any advantages because, I mean, the territory over here is very, very contested. So having the battle headquarters there would be, well, extremely dangerous, to say the least. Right now, of course, buffed support guns going to come through. And this is why I say that, like, okay, this incendiary barrage, it did not get mentioned in the patch notes. Weird. Anyway, this incendiary barrage is annoying as hell, and apparently the smoke barrage does not cost anything. It's weird. Anyway, as you can see, my guys have been pushing up. I've managed to secure the fuel point, so I decided to harass a little bit further into enemy territory, and I see that that point was pretty much available. And I also see the support gun, so at this point I just retreat my riflemen pretty safely because I see that huge amount of Volksgrenadiers coming through. Don't want to lose any unnecessary rifleman troops. But at the same time, I saw the support gun, so I knew that something kind of annoying was coming through. And of course, here comes the MP40s. So there's an assault package now for the Volksgrenadiers. How many MP40s? I don't remember. How many MP40s? All MP40s. So a lot like the Volksgrenadiers in Company of Heroes 1. You can still go for the STG-44 assault rifles regardless, for 2 STG-44s. Not really sure about these two. I mean, of course, the MP40s in Company of Heroes 2 aren't exactly as good as they are in Company of Heroes 1. But the assault package can be very useful at close range, as you will soon see. And of course, here comes the massive incendiary barrages. And the right side, battle headquarters being set up, and of course the right side is being captured by Ragulin. However, nice coming through with the upgraded 50 caliber machine gun and managing to get a lot of damage off. Badly coordinated assault from Mr. Fahrenheit. He's gonna come through the open with his Volksgrenadiers, just not really even microing the assault squad separately from the rifle squads. So of course the rifle squads were moving forward along with the Volksgrenadiers with MP40s, and the Volksgrenadiers with MP40s were not even moving at a close enough range to be effective. I decided to go for a captain because I knew that my opponent would have, well, had the possibility of going for some vehicles in, you know, the remote future. And since I was, of course, with the recon doctrine, I do have the Greyhound, so I don't exactly need something like the flak half-track, and I perhaps don't even need the Stuart, but I could get the Stuart right now, so I decided to go for the Stuart anyway, and I'd rather have a Stuart than a flak half-track. Also, the M8 Greyhound is pretty important. Another thing that's very important for the new recon support is, of course, the airdropped combat group. This one is probably the most important ability, in fact, of the whole tree. It's an amazing ability, and what it allows you to do is airdrop an airborne squad plus an AT gun at 325 munitions, 325 manpower and 80 munitions, which, if you think about it, is less than the cost of a airborne squad from the actual airborne doctrine. And unfortunately, as you can see, my guys are taking a lot of damage, but they will survive. Trying to get around this MG42, do manage that with my riflemen. However, yeah, massive Volksgrenadiers that were reinforced are now going to be able to come through and massacre my riflemen, which is a bit of a problem. And the rest of my units are taking a little bit of fire from the MG, of course, getting suppressed, but now they're able to get across the river and pour on some fire on the Volks. Still, though, there's way too many German troops in the area, and so I decide very soon to retreat because, well, these MP40s at close range are dealing quite a bit of damage to my guys. However, at this point, the Stuart comes in, and I can try something else. The Stuart is, of course, going to be, well, very, very instrumental in pushing against this battle headquarters because I see that my enemy doesn't really have that many counters. I saw, well, I actually didn't see a Raketenwerfer, but the Raketenwerfer was on the south. So I didn't see any Raketenwerfers, and I'm just thinking, well, I'm just going to push up and start to fire. I've got the bazooka from my captain, and so with the 37mm from the Stuart, I can just kind of pound it on, and I now get the airborne squad plus the anti-tank gun. The anti-tank gun itself is, of course, like 270. I was thinking about pack. 270 manpower, which is really, really good for 80 munitions, to be completely honest, because you're getting, for 80 munitions, 270 manpower, which, if you think about it, is better than, like, oh, damn, that was a nice little kill. It's better than a lot of other, like, manpower for, or rather, munitions for manpower trades, etc. And it's still very, very good to get an airborne squad for 320 manpower. And there goes the battle headquarters. Of course, very well played with the anti-tank gun. However, I do misplay over here, and I lose both a rifleman squad and a pathfinder squad, which are both very, very big blows. Also, another bad thing is that I retreated my airborne because I misclicked. So, very, very bad play overall. While I do get to kill on the battle headquarters, I lose quite a lot in the process, which perhaps I shouldn't have done. Well, in fact, I definitely shouldn't have done. And right now, as you can see, these stern piles trying to get the cap of the center. So far, I've been able to just kind of hold on to my side without any kind of interference from the Germans. At this point, things are starting to change. A flak half-track is on the field for Raglan, and he's able to use that to pound away at my rear echelon troops. And of course, we have the mines being placed down by Raglan. However, I believe we do see the mines, and so we know what's going on. We're not going to have any big troubles. In the meantime, I've pretty much always had this ambulance standing behind the building over here, just providing a nice cover. And this is why I love that anti-tank gun. Amazing range. And, of course, manned by rear echelon troops, so pretty cheap as well. No real problem getting the anti-tank gun to pay for itself. Killing that lovely flak half-track. That's not going to be very useful anymore for the Germans. At this point, the Stuart over here is going to be very instrumental in dealing with this Volksgrenadiers push. And the Volksgrenadiers are being very, 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 very reckless and just kind of blobbing up like doofuses. And at this point, they're just kind of charging through, trying to get some Panzerfaust off on the Stuart. I know that something is coming, so I'm like, yeah, let's just avoid that. I also decide to come in with the M8 Greyhound. The M8 Greyhound is 60 fuel, so it's almost as expensive as the Stuart at 70 fuel. Of course, it does have mobility on its side compared to the Stuart, but the problem is, yeah, as you can see, I was really used to the old canister shot, which was not an AoE ability. It was a Homan ability, so you target a squad and the canister shot would fire on the squad. Unfortunately, it's not like that anymore, so I missed my first round. I decided to get the hell out of the Greyhound just in case anything auto-target was trying to kill me. This kind of puts the Greyhound in a pretty precarious position. However, I do come in with the Stuart. The anti-tank gun was kind of distracted, so I managed to flank it, get some killing shots on it. And, of course, my airborne, my paratrooper support squads now have the double LMG upgrades, so they're going to be massively powerful against enemy infantry. And the last ability for the recon support is the cluster bombs, which is 110 munitions, but it's actually extremely effective. It's basically butterfly bombs. And you'll see soon enough if I manage to catch the time when I use it. Big mistake, however, from Raglan, getting another flak half-track. At this point, the Germans are in a very bad spot when it comes to resources and resource usage, because at this point, after wasting 100 fuel on flak half-tracks, 110 fuel on flak half-tracks, things are starting to not look very good for Raglan, because he's going to be delayed in his teching by about 4 minutes, considering that he has 26 fuel income. Of course, he's facing a mechanized company player, so he's also, or rather, Sigismund, the mechanized company player, is also going to have to spend quite a bit of resources on... Ooh, yeah, did they buff the mortar half-track? That was a lot of damage on the flak. Anyway, yeah, a lot of fuel being invested into light vehicles. In the meantime, there's another push, of course, up north, but thanks to my layered defenses, as you can see, these are the cluster bombs. Amazing damage dealt on the retreating Volksgrenadiers. That was the Volksgrenadier squad with the MP40s. Managing to get the wipe on that is, of course, a very good victory for me. As you can see, I decided to go with the layered defenses, putting like one squad in the building, one squad in that piece of cover, one squad in that piece of cover, as spread out as possible because of the threat of that annoying support gun. And at this point, my opponent makes a pretty big mistake, Raglan. He decides, one, to go with a mechanized regiment headquarters instead of a Schwerpanzer headquarters. Again, considering how much fuel he wasted on flaks, that's a very bad choice. And he decides to go with a mechanized regiment headquarters in a, well, very, very exposed position. At this point, however, I don't really have much that can actually exploit this weakness. I mean, I'm trying to do that with my mechanized, or sorry, not my mechanized, with my Stuart. And the Stuart was taking quite a bit of... was, you know, delivering quite a bit of a punishment to the mechanized. However, a lot of Folks Grenadiers coming through from the base are going to manage to get a nice Panzerfaust off on the Stuart, and the Stuart is at very, very low HP, getting chased down by Raketenwerfers. I tried to use my airborne to stop with those Raketenwerfers, but he was able to get a little bit of reinforcement from the base, plus, of course, Raketenwerfers are naturally quite nimble. At this point, the Stuart is in a bad spot, and it's probably going to die right away. Yep, it does. In the meantime, I have managed to save my Greyhound, which is pretty okay. But still, losing that Stuart is a pretty big loss that I should not really have sustained. Right now, I have my rear echelon troops just kind of still pushing up and providing line of sight once again to that AT gun. Still providing a very, very awesome service to me, just destroying those trucks without any mercy for freedom. At this point, nice rifleman force from Sakis is going to be able to destroy any and all German troops that are coming through. Of course, Raglan has chosen the breakthrough doctrine, so he does have Sturmofficer. Sturmofficer, however, ooh, damn, nice incendiary grenade. But the Sturmofficer is not going to be enough to just kind of counter this American rifleman blob. Because of course, the bars. I haven't been able to upgrade any bars yet on my own troops, or bazookas, in fact, because I decided to go with that paratrooper support squad, which has 120 120 price tag on the LMGs. The LMGs, of course, much better than the BARs. Basically the same price, 120 for two. For two BARs, I'd need 120 munitions as well, so of course pretty good. And because also I've been using the airdropped combat group, which costs 80 munitions, and the cluster bombs. So quite a bit of a munitions usage from my doctrinal abilities. That is something that is quite important to remember. Yeah, of course, another AT gun drop, pretty good. Gonna try to get the second AT gun rolling against the enemy. However, of course, at this point, the problem is starting to become the infantry, because, as you can see, I only have one anti-infantry squad. The other airborne squad, still with only the carbines, is gonna have some problems. And then I have some mixed, low-quality units, like rear echelon troops, one rifleman squad with not a lot of veterancy. And then I do have the Greyhound, which is a nice, harassment tool. However, I decided to get it into a bad position. I thought that there was a passageway over here, and I thought that the Raketenwerfer's arc of fire was not as good as it was, and so I very much get humiliated, and the Greyhound is destroyed. In the meantime, in the south, the infrared half-track is actually helping out Regulin in a very good manner. He's now able to secure the south side cemetery, which is of course quite good because it contains the VP and the field point. Of course, very important, but at this point, Sherman's on the field, and Sherman is going to be able to rectify at least some of this situation. In the meantime, the armor situation for me is, of course, not as good because I wasted 60 fuel on a Greyhound that didn't really do a lot, and I wasted 70 fuel on a Stuart that didn't really do a lot. So that's 130 fuel, about 4 or 5 minutes worth of fuel income, basically down the drain. And so I don't even have my major yet. Actually, I know I do have my major, but still, only just upgraded the major. And at this point, I'm trying to get my anti-tank gun and infantry line to advance a little bit closer. I was thinking about coming in and helping out my ally down here, but he said it was all fine, so I just kind of let him deal with his own stuff. Unfortunately, it seems like his mortar half-track has just been destroyed by a nice Panzerschreck shot from these Sturm Pioneers. Panzerschrecks and Raketenwerfer still providing quite a lot of support for, wait, what? Quite a lot of support for the Germans. For some reason, this M3 half-track is now without any crew. Where's the crew of the half-track? I have no idea. This is the half-track assault group, providing, of course, the assault engineers, which have the ability to both go with flamethrowers and demo charges. Demo charges being absolutely nerfed in the last patch, however, means that this is really not as effective as it used to be. And at this point, of course, also the 50 cal of the half-track is providing some good support, but Panzerschreck's getting close, and with no infantry support, I believe that this half-track is gonna go down soon. Let's see. Oh, actually, Sherman medium tank being upgraded with a bulldozer. I'm not sure about that, but yes, everything here, somehow the half-track still survives, but everything in here seems to point out that the Germans, while fledglingly, might just be able to eke out the VP. And in the meantime, I'm being pushed back, and wow, I really was getting pushed back by nothing here, by just 2 squads. Damn. Definitely misplays coming in from me. At this point, I kind of get screwed over by the way this is working out, because somehow the Germans, because of the fact that they contest this point, I can't reinforce with my ambulance anymore. And I don't really realize that this is happening until a little bit later. And as you can see, the Germans are just kind of, you know, spoon-feeding one unit at a time into the meat grinder, which just kind of allows them to continuously stop the reinforcement. And so this just kind of allows them to have a local superiority that they really shouldn't have. Right now, I also make a huge mistake. I retreat way too late, and I get one of my LMGs stolen by the enemy, which is massive, 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 because that's a very valuable little weapon. And then I decide, screw it, I'll just come in with my unreinforced units and try to do something about this. But yeah, yet more Volksgrenadiers are going to come through, and so this is going to be very, very annoying for me. I now have the major retreat point, which is of course quite good. And the major retreat point coming already quite so late, did not receive any big nerfs this patch, so that's pretty fine for me. And the only problem that I can see is the fact that I'm getting, you know, kind of attacked by that 75mm support gun. But it's really no big problem. Right now, I mean, as you can see now, I can reinforce from the ambulance. I believe I am out of range, and even if the support gun decides to do something very strange, I can just kind of relocate very quickly. I now have a Sherman, which is of course quite good. However, I don't know. Yeah, the Sherman was a good choice. However, you'll see soon what happens. The Sherman is definitely not the worst choice at all. HE rounds got nerfed last patch, but they're still quite good. And with 2 Rocketwerfers right now, the enemy's starting to really load up on that AT. However, to be completely honest, really the lack of infantry AT and the lack of vehicles right now for the calling Mr. Fahrenheit is really having some problems. And wait, Opel Blitz truck for the Führersturm. Oh, that's why they have incendiary rounds. That's because of the Führersturm doctrine. Okay, I am retarded. I actually had no idea that it was from the Führersturm doctrine. Kind of makes sense, although I don't like it. I mean, I think it's very, very situational for a doctrinal ability. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to run away from my rifleman over here, and I'll make a pretty big mistake over there. Essentially not really retreating as quickly as I should have. I now notice what is going on, and I retreat, but it's a little bit too late. Coming through a little bit too many automatic weapons and the Schwer Panzer quarters. I now see what is going on. I'm like, really? I was trying to come through with my M3 Sherman, but I decided it's the best idea not to. Of course, my rear echelon troops also getting wiped out in the process. So 2 squads of mine going down. Right now, I'm left with not as many squads as I used to. Of course, 2 of these squads are airborne, so that is quite good. My Sherman takes quite a bit of fire from those Rocketwerfers, so I decide to retreat. And right now, of course, the anti-tank gun being essentially a useless wall, because I was thinking that vehicles were coming through, but they never really came. And right now, the bulldozer is trying to come through and get some... Oh, that was an amazing little kill on the Rocketwerfer. Still, lots of Rocketwerfers. But at this point, with that Schwer Panzer quarters over there, yeah, the rifleman can't really push through anymore. So it's going to be a little bit harder for Sakis to push on his side at this point, because he's reached really the high water mark of where he can even advance. Unfortunately, he looks like his riflemen will be destroyed in that engagement. No, very lucky. Very, very lucky over there. None of these units decided to shoot at them. Yet more damage coming through. On this kind of terrain, well, the only buff that the Sherman received is very, very good. The fact that now the Sherman can shoot through terrain. This is very, very good, of course, as you can see, and it allows the Sherman to just get kill after kill after kill. Some Panzer Fusiliers finally coming through to help out, but it's not enough. I mean, they do manage to reman the Rocketwerfer, but there's now 2 Shermans. Gonna pound them with high explosive, hopefully. Yeah. This is not going to be looking good for the Rocketwerfers, even with the battle quarters being nearby. I mean, this is just such a huge bleed on Raguelin's infantry. This is just insanity. He should definitely retreat back to base at this point and cut his losses, because he really can't deal with the Shermans. Like, there's no way, like, continuously reinforcing over here is going to give him any kind of advantages. As you can see, there goes the Volksgrenadier squad. The Panzer Fusiliers themselves are taking a lot of damage, and yeah, the Shermans are just kind of spreading the love of democracy all the way here. They destroyed our Rocketwerfer with the armor piercing. They destroy the infantry with the high explosive, and yeah, basically the only thing that's going to prevent all of this is the wall. Prevent all of this going down is the wall. At this point on the left-hand side, as you can see, a Panther's coming through. Annoying incendiary rounds are taking quite a bit of a toll on my anti-tank on cruise. However, it's really not the worst. As you can see, it's not really doing all that much damage. So I'm just kind of ignoring them and using my ambulance to reinforce and repair. And at this point, this machine gun is starting to get very annoying. This machine gun position in the house will cause me a lot of problems because, as you can see, there's not really much of a way for me to flank it. Like, if I decide to come through on the left-hand side, he has a lot of windows. If I come through over here, there's no real point at this street that I can use to put myself in cover because the MG can shoot through here. So I would have to approach from the right side, which I don't know what anything, any units that are over here. I don't have any intelligence, so I'm not really in the mood of pushing through there. However, I see that the Panther's in a very weak position. I send my Sherman through on the rear. I make a mistake and come through around. I should have just stayed here and gone behind it. However, I'm taking quite a lot of nice pot shots with the Jackson, newly buffed, of course. And the Sherman now is trying to push through. I decide to go with a butterfly bombs over here because I wanted to catch the Panther while it was still kind of repairing. I don't manage to get that. However, the Panther still goes down because of the awesome buffs of the Jackson, now providing a lot more of a flexible platform for fire support for the Americans. And as you can see, my infantry got completely massacred by the machine gun in the meantime. So while the vehicle part of the engagement went very well for me, the infantry part of the engagement did not. And at this point, yeah, my Sherman is coming through, shoots, unfortunately, from the auto fire at the LEIG support gun because it does not see the Rekenwerfers that were stealthed. And at this point, I'm trying to get my Sherman to be essentially a vanguard to take the shots from the Schwer Panzer, and just kind of allowing my infantry to take down those Rekenwerfers. However, as you can see, there's quite a lot of problems coming through. Something destroys my Sherman. I have no idea what. And yeah, my Jackson is forced to retreat. My infantry is forced to retreat as well, taking quite a lot of damage, almost going down. One of the anti-tank gun crews goes down. At that point, that was because I had clicked my anti-tank guns on an attack order against the Schwer Panzer quarters, forgetting about this machine gun, which is of course a massive mistake on my part. As you can see, that leads to both of my AT guns being decrewed, and now the Volksgrenadiers have an opportunity, a golden one, to recrew both of them. However, instead of doing that, he builds more Rekenwerfers, and he does not take these guns, which is a huge mistake on his part. It allows me to, of course, come through with my infantry and suppress them. I still have an orphaned vehicle crew from that Sherman, so I can use that to recrew the anti-tank guns. And I can also use that as a kind of a bait for the machine gun. Something of mine gets wiped out, most likely the Rearschland troops, which is kind of sad. Looks like it was, yeah, it was something happening. And right now, my airborne is just massacring these Panzer Fusiliers. I love this squad, as you can see. It's very, very good with that M1919. It allows the Americans to have a very, very much needed late game counter to like German elite infantry and stuff. And at this point, as you can see, I'm getting kind of flanked by these Sturm Pioneers. I use the suppressing fire. However, this only really slows enemies. It doesn't really suppress them as quickly as I would like them to, especially considering the Obersoldaten, the kind of ability that they have to suppress. That's free. I don't know. This is kind of weird. And yeah, all of this is providing quite a lot of pressure on me. Like, as you can see at this point, I've lost most of my infantry, and I don't really have the manpower to rebuild it. So this is providing the Germans with a bit of an opportunity to regain some territory in the center and left side, which they previously lacked. However, at this point, Raglan has lost all of his units on the right-hand side, and looks like also a Panzer IV was destroyed, so very well played to my ally. At this point, he does have, of course, the Tier 4, so he can go with those 76mm medium tanks from the Mechanized Company, and these are very, very strong at dealing with enemy vehicles, considering their price. As you can see, their price is basically that of an M4C Sherman, so very, very, very powerful at dealing with both enemy infantry and vehicles, exactly what you want to happen. However, the map really isn't well suited to the playstyle of aggressive medium tank play, but as you will see, they will be able to work in this environment regardless. So at this point, I'm getting kind of pressured by both the last remaining units of Ragulin and the last remaining units of They Call Me Mr. Fahrenheit. So I'm still getting pushed back a little bit by my elite, but my elite infantry is getting a lot of veterancy, as you can see. Both airborne squads at vet free. My captain is at vet free. I've reconsidered my retreat point right now at the ambulance. And for some reason, my opponent decided to not steal those anti-tank guns, which is a huge, huge mistake because it's allowing me more and more time to plan, you know, a bit of a recapture. And at this point, I try to spring my assault. However, my captain, as you can see, gets instantly suppressed before he can get to the heavy cover by the MG42, which is now up to vet 5. And as you can see there, its suppression is just absolutely through the roof. I tried to come through with both my airborne in the center north and my vehicle crew, but it's just not enough because my captain is forced away almost instantly. My other airborne squads managed to get a nice bit of an advantage point into the building, but flame grenades coming through are gonna make my paratroopers run away very, very smartly on their part. And the other airborne squad can't really stay here too much because a second machine gun gets up here to the other building and manages to take care of that. At this point, my Jackson decides, hey, it's probably better to destroy this anti-tank gun. Earlier on, I was planning to recapture it. However, at this point, Ragulin comes in, and Ragulin, definitely having more wisdom than his ally, manages to capture it instantly. A second Jackson by this point has been built by me, and that's, well, I mean, it will provide a good, nice bit of fire support platform. My idea with the second Jackson was that I was already kind of well-positioned when it came to anti-infantry with my airborne. And additional Shermans would not have been very useful. One, because of possible new German vehicles. Two, because of the amount of anti-tank guns that were on the field. So I would have really relied on my infantry for anti-infantry and my vehicles for anti-vehicle. That's what I thought. It ends up kind of working out, but kind of not. As you can see, nice push from the Shermans. 3 regular Shermans plus a 75mm, or sorry, 76mm will be coming through. Lots of anti-tank gunfire, of course, going to be coming through. However, the second Raketenwerfer is in a very bad position. Its line of sight blocked by that bush. The 76mm comes in, nice crushing maneuver on the Volksgrenadiers, but it does not really do enough. The Jagdpanzer, however, explodes itself, and at this point, thanks to that nice smoke, the Shermans are able to clean up the infantry, along with my own infantry coming through, and my Jacksons decide to come in and flank the Jagdpanzer, using a tac round to destroy it within the smoke. And at this point, also a nice usage of the butterfly bombs completely dealt with that Raketenwerfer and dealt a lot of damage to these machine gun units as well. My airborne trying to come through and getting into the building to provide a little bit of extra fire support. They don't really realize that there's no windows coming through on the other side, so that's going to be a bit of a mistake on my part. However, the Shermans are just unstoppable at this point. Yet another Sherman goes down in the fighting, but it's not enough because right now all of the German infantry is just being completely massacred. At this point, the only thing that was needed for my airborne to just completely firing squad away at the enemy was the destruction of the MG34. And once that was accomplished, as you can see, the airborne is just free to do whatever they want. At this point, the Jacksons are just trying to come through and destroy the Schwer Panzer quarters. However, they do take a nasty anti-tank gun shot. And at this point, because of the sort of narrow maneuver spaces over here, they're going to take a lot more damage than I would have rather wanted them to take. My captain still kind of working over here. I was trying to destroy the Raketenwerfers, but I believe I misclicked, and they're not really shooting the bazookas at the Raketenwerfers anymore, so bit of a problem. My airborne still takes a lot of damage. My rebuilt rifleman squads also take a lot of damage and are forced to retreat by the newly reinforced Volksgrenadiers. So at this point, the Axis is going to be able to regain some of their positions, but the push was very well executed by my ally. He was able to come in and rescue me when I was getting pushed away by the enemy infantry, thanks to his nice swarm of Shermans. And at this point, I tried to recapture that anti-tank gun. However, nice incendiary grenade is going to prevent me from doing that. That's kind of unfortunate. And of course, Veteran 5 Stern Pioneer also providing some good support over there. However, at this point, with the amount of just armor that we have, it's just not going to be practical for the enemy to resist anymore. My fighting position is still around, managing to get some good suppression off on those Sternpios. And yeah, at this point, basically, the enemy has no choice because there's a triple cap going for us. And at this point, very nicely coming through with the WC-51, which is still alive. Actually, no, this is a new WC-51. Both the WC-51 and a M3 half-track. However, takes a bit of a shot. There goes the WC. Still, the WC is successful at delivering these riflemen to the front lines. My own riflemen are coming through, trying to support. Still a lot of damage coming through from that anti-tank gun, up to Veteran C2, proving its effectiveness. I try to get my riflemen on Raketenwerfer to try to escape, but they get instantly murdered by all of the Panzer Fusiliers, which is kind of sad. And at this point, I am once again not able to recapture all of that. However, the Shermans are through, and the Shermans are dealing a lot of damage to these Raketenwerfers. At this point, my Jacksons have been repaired, so they are able to come through and attack that Schwerpanzer quarters. There goes the Raketenwerfer. At this point, the Germans are really, really down when it comes to resources because they wasted their vehicles earlier on, and so at this point, they're really in a bad position when it comes to that resource game. As you can see, I decide to come through with the butterfly bombs. I kind of miss and I kind of hit, however, getting a lot of damage off on the support gun crew and the machine gun. And at this point, I come from the Jacksons because I decide that it's time for that Schwerpanzer quarters to die. There goes the other anti-tank gun once again, and I'm coming in with my own paratroopers to try to destroy the enemy infantry. Nice grenade. Unfortunately, it does not do enough damage. I still get my riflemen in there. It's not going to be enough, really, because at this point, the game is already over. I'm trying to destroy the anti-tank gun with my bazookas. It's once again not working. This time, the captain does decide to fire, however, and it destroys the anti-tank gun. Of course, the Schwerpanzer quarters is down, and at this point, they are gone. So what should they have done? Probably they should have used their resources a little bit better when it comes to the fuel. They should have been a lot more concerned with keeping their infantry alive. Sink error detected because the enemy drops. Should have been a lot more concerned with keeping their infantry alive, of course. And I believe that on the left-hand side, perhaps some more infantry would have been useful instead of just going for so many Raketenwerfers as he did. They call me Fahrenheit. I believe went for 3 Raketenwerfers. Oh no, I want the call me Fahrenheit. Okay. How many Raketenwerfers? 5 Raketenwerfers. So perhaps instead of the 5 Raketenwerfers, he should have been more careful with 2 Raketenwerfers. And then he should have gone with some more infantry, because the infantry is really, with the Führersturm doctrine, can be quite useful. I mean, a couple of Sturm Pioneers, the new and upgraded Sturm Pioneers, with of course flamethrowers, they can be very effective. And yeah, I mean, he himself, other than that, did not really have any other options. What was also quite good for him was the Panther, but he wasted it very, very early on. He did not group it with infantry. That was a major mistake. It allowed me to come in and flank it with the Sherman. By the way, that's what I mean whenever I say, yeah, you have a medium tank, you should flank. Like, that did not take a lot of skill to make. Like, there was a bit of a line of sight blocker from this wall, so I just kind of went where the enemy Panther did not see me, and then I came through and followed up with my regular Jackson. I don't know why it's so hard for some people to flank. Anyway, yeah, he definitely did not prioritize defending the Panther, which came back through and bit him in the rear. Ragulin, his major mistake was his positioning of his battle quarters way too close to the action. It allowed his opponent to just kind of take advantage of that and keep his reinforcement point under threat, under fire, and that's no position you want to be in. Of course, later on, deficiencies in teching as well. He never went for a Schwerpanzer quarters because he wasted way too much fuel earlier on well, he did go for the Schwerpanzer quarters over here, but it was in way too much of an exposed position as well. And again, he did not manage to get really much done with the Schwerpanzer quarters other than this Panzer IV over here because he wasted so much fuel earlier on whatchamacallit, on God damn it, why did I forget? The 2 flak half-tracks, right. So really, better use of light vehicles, better infantry tank coordination, and be careful with your expenditures. Those would be the things I say the enemy did wrong. And yeah, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. I will see you soon. As always, send me the replays. And yeah, have a nice one.